There's a certain amount of empty joy when you play a Call of Duty. There's the rush, the absolute endorphin pounding, heart throbbingness that you get from this game. And then by the same token, the ripping out, the screaming, the crying in the shower. It's like meeting an old girlfriend for the first time in 20 years and you go out on a date again and you realize just how toxic it was back then. But then you're also in the honeymoon stage and trying to figure out if it's still worth it to just give it another try. That's kind of Call of Duty in the current state. I don't think it's a bad game. I don't think Modern Warfare 3 overall was a bad game, and I want this review to be different on how I explain it. I'm not a grifter, I'm not a shill, so I'm not just going to beat up on the game. And I'm also not a big streamer or a amazing content or even a consistent content creator. So I'm not going to get anything from shilling the game either. If you watch this review, thank you, I appreciate it. And if you don't, thank you, I appreciate it. Don't be afraid to downvote. Leave your comments down below on what you thought about this review and about this game yourself. But let's get into it. So the first thing I think we need to do is have some set of loose parameters here so I'm not just rambling on. And I don't necessarily think the game is absolutely dog trash, just bot infested, kind of like Blame Truth or some of the other ones out there. So I guess I am kind of more of the middle line guy. In order to break this down, we're going to do it by 3 modes: campaign, multiplayer, and zombies. Now, forewarning, I've only played about 10 to 20 games of zombies, so I don't have as much information and as much knowledge in that mode as the other two, but I have played Call of Duty for quite a long time, and I think I've played it enough to speak about it, considering it is rather similar to the DMZ mode that we got last year. So, we're going to go off of, was it fun? Was it innovative? And is it replayable? Now, the innovative part, I'm not looking necessarily just in the Call of Duty series, but is it innovative in the way that it handled whatever that it handled in its respective mode throughout the Call of Duty franchise, throughout the first person franchise, and then again throughout the Call of Duty franchise. I said that twice, so you can hear that twice. All right, so again, my name is Yoko Yoko Gaming, 30-year-old bald gamer, big pro. Let's go off and start with campaign. Campaign. If you've seen the tweet that Call of Duty, or I think it was even Sledgehammer had kind of put out recently, nobody has played as much Call of Duty campaign since this game. This game kind of broke all the records apparently. I feel like that's partly true because everyone was talking about how bad it was and how short it was. So I'm gonna have to apologize here. For some reason, my Kick, my Twitch, my YouTube, everything just like deleted when I did my stream, because when I started the stream for Call of Duty when it was released, I played the campaign. So I'm just going to have to supplement that footage with multiplayer content and zombies content. So I do apologize in advance, but I have played the game. I think more people actually bought the game to just see how bad it was and to see if it's even worth it to play it. The other part of it is we have more people on the planet than we did in 2008. We definitely have more Call of Duty fans now than we had in 2008. So I think it's kind of disingenuous to say that, more people are buying the game and it's the most that it's ever been. I don't know if that's per ratio or per capita, I don't know the actual percentage there. The first thing I will say about the campaign is you have about 14 missions. You have about 18 cutscenes. It's arguable that 4 to 5, probably a good 5 of those campaign missions are set in a Verdansk or a Warzone map, something that you're familiar with. Now, I don't necessarily find this lazy, as 2019 and the Modern Warfare 2 actually kind of put Call of Duty back on the map, and along with that was Warzone. So to have some of these places seem familiar and worked into a campaign, I don't necessarily think that's lazy. However, I will say the way that they handled the missions in themselves seem lazy. And I think we're going to find this later on as we go through a lot of the different parts of the modes, that just seems to be the core issue with this game. If I have one overall criticism, it's not that necessarily the game is bad. I think they have some really good ideas, even if it was quote unquote rushed. I just feel that the execution on a lot of it was not great. So let's start with the first one. The first mission that you go over through is Operation 627. It's kind of breaking out of Makarov. I think it's an okay mission. It's pretty reminiscent to something that Call of Duty it does a lot. I think if you played any Elder Scrolls games or any MMORPGs and you always start like in a dungeon or you're always in jail and then you break out, Call of Duty kind of has the same bread and butter beginning of you're escaping prison or you're escaping a hot zone, unless it's a direct sequel. The first one that comes to mind was the old World at War game when you're running out of the Gulag. This is kind of the same thing. immediately transitions into Farah, I believe that was her name, into a Precious Cargo. Precious Cargo is a copy and paste Warzone map 100%. But again, the reason I don't like how this was handled is that it's a it's supposed to kind of be a stealthy mission that can also go really balls to the wall. But the problem is it's all very local, right? Like if you in the mission you have to like find these bombs and defuse this shit, whatever, right? It's a run here, do this type thing. There's not really a big story push in it. She's kind of talking to Graves throughout it. Um, it's a very easy mission, even on veteran. There's just not much to it. Then you drop into a reactor mission. I kind of thought this one was pretty cool. You kind of going sneaking around, but at the same time, when stuff hits the wall, you have to blow up all these helicopters. Again, it's an easy mission, but I don't find anything so far out of the first three missions. The only character that I can really attach myself to is Makarov. Farah is pretty familiar, but Makarov is the only thing that's going off. All right, now we're on 4. This is Payload. This is not your sniping mission. It's a very stealthy mission, but it's kind of the only one you get with grass and kind of taking your time. Of course, it goes haywire in the end. It's an okay mission. You get to be Price. There's some good cutscenes in there, but there's not much. Then you go over to Deep Cover. Deep Cover was pretty cool. It was kind of cool to be Laswell again. For those that have played the OGs, you're kind of making your way into a base. You have to kind of knock out an old fat white guy, steal his card key, enter into the base to meet your Russian, what would you call that? Russian informant type thing. And then you have kind of some gas that breaks out. You have Passenger. Passenger's kind of supposed to be your no Russian, is what people were comparing it to. You're an ex-soldier that used to fight near Farah. Well, you're like looking at your family and your kids. The dude grabs you and throws a bomb on you. I mean, I think as far as, if I have to be honest, I think as far as the amount of time put into a mission for Samara, I think this was the one that they put the most time into. I don't think it's necessarily as shocking as 2000 and whatever it was, 8 or 9 with Modern Warfare 2, but I don't think you should ever compare anything to that because that's just never going to happen. It's going to be really, 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 really hard to go after a set of campaign missions and a company that at the time was so like hungry coming off of COD 4. You know, like it's just, that's not this. But I think it's an okay mission. I don't like it. I don't hate it. Crash Site's kind of cool. Crash Site kind of reminded me of Afghan, which was kind of cool to see. And it's at night, so that's great. Other than that, there's not much else to really say about that. It's an okay mission. You're destroying evidence about the mission prior. Flashpoint's pretty cool. Flashpoint's pretty cool for me because it kind of gave credence to why the stadium broke down. If you guys remember who played Warzone during the time, there was this big thing about how it broke down. And it was like burned down and crashed at one point because they were setting up the weapons of mass destruction. It was kind of cool to see it from this point of view when you're going after Makarov, even though it's kind of a flashback. It just kind of gave like, I don't know, it kind of connected 2 or 3 dots. So I thought that was pretty cool. Oligarchy or Oligarch is actually on its face a really cool mission, right? Sneaking up to Makarov's financier. You kind of have to be stealthy, but there's a lot of different ways you can take. It's kind of open-ended on the way you route yourself and how it goes crazy or stealthy. So I think it's an okay mission. I think High Rise was absolutely shit. It didn't remind me of High Rise at any point. It's basically kill this guy, go up the stairs, kill this guy, go up the stairs. At the end, you kind of rescue, well, not rescue, but capture the guy that you needed. And then you have all these, all the guys are like dropping on the rooftop, right? They're dropping in smoke. I was really surprised there wasn't any juggernauts, or if there was nothing at any point that I felt overpowered, or, I mean, they're all like spawning like way far away and you have a chance to just beat the hell out of them. So I don't know. I don't know how I really felt about that, I gotta be honest. Frozen Tundra was okay. In Frozen Tundra, you are supposed to be killing Makarov, and I think you end up finding Shepard. It kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know necessarily why that mission popped up the way it did, but it did pop up that way. Then you have Gorodam. Gorodam is your diffusing bombs right outside of Dam from Verdansk. It was okay. It's another night mission. You have Danger Close, which is the AC-130 mission, although it's very fast. And then you lead into Trojan Horse. Trojan Horse is where you're going to follow. I forget who you're following actually, but you're trying to find Makarov. You end up fighting through the subway system right over there in Big London, and you find Makarov. I'm going to talk about this mission. Yeah, sorry about that. It's like a bee just flew into my tongue. I'm going to talk about this mission in particular, and I'm going to talk about the cutscenes for this mission. Okay, so in this mission, yeah, I guess because this is the last mission, two things happen. Two things that happen, okay? The first thing that we get, these are the two big story things that actually happen throughout the whole damn story. Like, these are the only two things that actually push the story forward, right? Everything else is kind of fluff and almost setting a stage for another one. First and foremost, Graves, nothing happens to Graves. So let's just put that out there. Second thing is, Soap dies in this. Spoiler alert if you've not played it. Soap dies at the very end. The way Soap dies isn't necessarily emotional, okay, in my opinion. They really threw him under the bus. All right. How it works is you guys are trying to defuse a bomb. Makarov comes up, pretty much shoots him in the stomach, I believe it is. And he's giving like his monologue and he's trying to basically dispatch you. Right before he does, Soap kind of like jumps on his back. He throws Soap off, shoots him in the head, then runs away. Right? And it's like a 30-second conflict. Supposedly in that mission, Captain Price and I believe Gaz, or Captain Price and Ghost, I forget which two, are like right there. Like, so there's not like the subway system fell and they were cut off, right? And that's what happened. Like, it wasn't scripted really well. Okay, so there's the first thing. The second thing is they defuse the bomb, they get away, goes to a cutscene of them burying Soap, more or less. They're kind of looking out at the sunset. Then it cuts to the other biggest thing that actually happens in this, and that is the killing of Shepard. Okay, Captain Price was waiting for him in his room. He's like, John, you want to do this, whatever. He pops him, bang. All right, and here's the problem that I have with this, the actual problem with the campaign that I have with this. Number one, nothing really happens of substance, even if you look at the fine details of all this, right? They actually based a mission off of recovering the footage from the last mission. They have a flashpoint, which is a flashback of something that happened in the past to kind of give an idea. Like, it was basically like a regret mission. Like, oh, we should have killed Makarov when he had the chance. This is what happened. So I didn't really like that. So you have Operation 627, which is them breaking Makarov out. Kind of have Reactor as Price. You kind of, that one shows you the chemicals that they were using. Then you have, I mean, the financier, the oligarch. It's a good mission in my opinion, but it's kind of like where he's getting his money from. The dam, where you actually have to defuse the stuff. Danger Close, you're trying to destroy the stuff. And then Trojan Horse, you realize there's nothing you could do. And then you get the killing of two significant quote-unquote people to the story. The other thing about the Shepard's death is that if we were to look at this in any other Call of Duty, okay, to give it meaning, to make it meaningful, you would have had the player play through to kill him, right, to capture him. Now, if you think back to the old, and I hate comparing it to the old guns, but even in 2019, I thought the story was pretty based. It felt pretty good. And even in Modern Warfare 2, the most recent one, for the hardships on the Warzone side and everything else, the story itself, like, when you can see memes come out about the story, you know that the culture is receiving it pretty well. Like Fope, it was hilarious the way they scripted him just writing, look at him like that. There's nothing in this game. There's no memes about the campaign in this game because it's just hot ass. And it's hot ass because of the way they handled the things. 2019, you're going against Shepard after he kind of kills Ghost and sets everybody on fire. You're playing through, right? There's a boat chase, like one of the most famous boat chases. Soap pulls the blade out of his chest to kill Shepard. Modern Warfare 3 kicks off. They're trying to escape because they're under attack, and they're trying to keep Soap alive during the time, and eventually Soap just kind of passes, right? Just through his own thing. You go through a bunch of like standoff missions where you're trying to protect him. They've got doctors there trying to operate him, and eventually he gives out. He can't do it no more. Yeah, but in this, it's just Bang. Like even in Makarov, okay? Even when you capture and kill Makarov in the old Call of Duties, it's an event. The actual killing is a cutscene that's in game, but it's a lead up to Captain Price actually kind of storming that building and like having like a fight. I believe it's even some quick time actions involved in that. And then you have like the cutscene of him hanging. In this, there's none of that. There's absolutely none of that. Soap dies. There was no quick time action to try to save him. You know, even if it didn't work, it would be something. There's no involvement. You just watch it happen, and then it fast forwards in. Oh my god! It goes forward into Price waiting on Shepard. Okay, you don't get to pull the trigger, right? There's many like it could have been a 20-second mission. Okay, it could have just been you walking. You know, those walking missions where you can't do any actions, just finding a way to sneak into his office and wait for him. And then it could have been an in-game cutscene that you got to watch. Just made it feel different. But for some reason they went that way, and that's why I think it was the lazy route. You know, it's easy to say that. I don't know if it's because of budget. I don't know what the devs really wanted, but it's just poorly executed. So was it fun? I think like most Call of Duties, it's fun. It's just fun to blow up people. It's fun to kill people. Was it innovative? Eh, so much in the way that it used assets from one of the most famous parts of Call of Duty, which was the Warzone. But from everything else, it's kind of been done before. I don't find any innovation in it. Maybe the footsteps. I don't know what you would say that was innovative. They didn't break any barriers. They didn't go super crazy and controversial with anything. So I don't think it was really innovative. Is it replayable? I think it is replayable because it feels like it's 2 seconds long. Yeah, I think it's replayable. I think definitely try to play it on veteran. I wouldn't recommend it, but it is possible. So 2 out of 3 there. I think the campaign is decent, and by decent I mean like a 4 out of 10. I wouldn't buy Modern Warfare 3 based off the campaign. All right, now we get into the multiplayer. I know campaign was a little long, but again, I wanted to explain everything I could, at least from my personal opinion, as that's all this video is. Okay, so going off the regimen that we've already set, the multiplayer is judged off fun, innovative, and replayable. And I think the first two things, at least one of those things, should automatically be clicked off and clicked on. Clicked off, clicked, checked on, checked. Anyway, Modern Warfare 3 is fun. Like most Call of Duties, most of them are fun. You can have fun in this game. Can you have as much fun as you want? No, not really. You have a very strict SBMM or skill-based matchmaking mode or ELO kind of working against you. Now, there's been a lot of theories on this, and I don't want to go completely on a tangent here, but I'm going to squeeze this in anyways. I don't know if that's because less people are playing the game. You know, some people actually only get this game for Christmas, and so that's why that it's not that the skill-based matchmaking parameters are as high as they are. It's probably just because there's less players in that pool. I don't know. I don't really have evidence to back this up yet, but one of the things I can show you is I have a KD that is the worst KD I've ever had in a Call of Duty, okay? I wanted to try to see something because I've just been going for longbows. Anyone that knows the channel knows that I would do snipe. I have a 1.07 KD. Okay. In Modern Warfare 2, I had a 2.3. And in 2019, I was peaking on a 3.330. My win loss is a 0.6. Okay. Those by standards are like average, barely average. Okay. So, and I'm getting in ridiculous lobbies, just absolute killer lobbies. So I don't know. I got to get some evidence on to think about that. I don't necessarily think skill-based matchmaking is tighter. Maybe it is. I don't know. But so here's some things. Let's go over innovative. What was actually innovative about this game? Well, the first thing is that they actually took everything over from Modern Warfare 2 and just copied and pasted it. They carried over your operators. They carried over your guns, your camos, and all that. Whether those guns are viable in this one, it doesn't matter. They saved your progress, which is kind of nice, and that kind of gives credence to the DLC thing, which is kind of something I wish Call of Duty had been doing for a long time. I wish that they would have took like a World of Warcraft type mode where they made an absolute solid beast of a game that everyone enjoyed. And then instead of releasing a new one that scrapped everything, they just kept adding on to that particular game and framework. Do I think it was worth $70 for this? No, not really. But I do see why. I mean, they did port everything over from the last one, and that's probably going to be one point that they argue. What else did they do that was innovative? The perk system in this is handled very differently. And I don't just mean that they swapped out the 1, 2, and 3 perks for um, gloves and sneakers and EOD, but they added some other perks like improve reload speed. They added some that actually matter. They kind of made it where you had to choose what you wanted. Like you can't really have EOD and Ghost unless you run a certain comms vest or a certain vest. So what is that? So a vest kind of changes your character a little bit, which is kind of cool. I kind of wish they would have been a little bit simpler. You have infantry, engineer, gunner, demolition, comms, and overkill. So these vests, when unlocked, kind of negate using the armory a little bit. We'll get into that in a little bit later, but it was kind of cool to see that no matter how you built it, you can always kind of get the build that you want. Um, which I don't know. It's innovative. Whether you like it or not, it's pretty innovative. All right, let's go to the armory. All right, so armory. Whew. There's a lot of things to say about the armory. None of them are great. I'll just be honest. The first thing that I heard when I seen this armory and everyone was kind of going over it, my thing was it was going to be like Black Ops. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the first Black Ops, there was a money system, right? You got money, a certain amount of money per day, a certain amount of money per win, and you could use that money to unlock things earlier than that level progression. However, the level progression would still unlock it. You can also wager money for certain things. It was actually a really cool mode. In this, I'm level 55 and I only have 18 out of 58 things completed. Like, what the hell, man? It's not even half the game. And I've played for quite a bit. And like, if I only snipe, right, I have to do these other things. I have to go out of my way to play the game a certain way to unlock everything. Now it's an RPG element, so um yeah, right? Like if you want to unlock the Sidewinder, I have to win 8 times, which with the skill-based matchmaking being turned up if it is fucking impossible because you only get 3 daily challenges. So if I'm on after work for 2 hours a day, average old guy gamer, it's just going to take forever. Like it's not a great system. However, it's an innovative system and it's a new system. Another innovative system, sniping is trash. Another new system implemented is always having to sign the code of contact before logging in. On PC, anyways, your game crashes if you try to switch between multiplayer and story mode. I found that out while doing this review again. Another thing is if you try to look at your screen for your score, it'll just give you a packet loss and you will just, freeze up for a minute. I will say one of the things that they did add that I do like in this is they've removed deaths from your stats. It's basically like kills, score, and latency, I think, or assists sometimes. But on PC, if you hit that little squiggly button there and not a hyphen, what you call that? Anyway, hit that little grammar mark to the left of the 1 symbol, it'll actually bring up a very detailed stat breakdown, which I really like. I think that's great. I think that was something that's innovative. So that was good. Is it replayable? Yeah, it's replayable. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is replayable. It's not my favorite one. It's not something that I think is groundbreaking in any way, but I think they did a lot of good things right, and I think they did a lot of things wrong. I haven't went over a lot of the wrong stuff, but going through all the maps, right? They just took every single Modern Warfare 2 map when they released the campaign, and we're like, we want a remaster. They're like, all right, we'll give you a straight copy and paste. Here's the old maps with everything new that we've progressed so far in the series. I just don't think these maps necessarily work for the gameplay. The maps are pretty big, and why I say that as a negative thing is that the maps are big, okay? The movement speed in this is incredibly fast compared to the old Modern Warfare 2, like how these maps were meant to be played. And every gun can reach out and touch somebody from any angle, right? Even submachine guns are wasting people on the sidelines of Wasteland, which is just not necessarily the best COD experience. However, the ump back in the day was kind of a boss too, but this seems to be like anything and everything. Your player base is also a lot smarter in this now, compared to back then. So things like jumping on the type of planes of Afghan and stuff, it just doesn't have as much value to it anymore because players are more aware of everything you can do in Call of Duty. Right now that you've opened Pandora's box and anything is possible, it's really hard to find those sneaky spots. Now, the other thing is, even though I play on low graphics just to try to get as much frames as possible, I do occasionally go up to the higher degrees on what, especially when I'm streaming, just the higher quality settings, just to see how the maps look. And there are finer details, but one of the things I've noticed overall is that there is less foliage, there's less places to hide. Another big criticism of this game I don't like is Ghost. I don't think you should pay 60 or $70 and then a way to play the game that's been established that's not unethical or illegal or immoral or breaks game code is kind of negated against. Camping is a big part of Call of Duty, just like quick scoping, especially if you're like an S&D and you're watching a bomb, don't think you should be penalized. If you find an absolute killer hiding spot, I don't think you should have to sprint constantly to stay off of UAV if they pop one. No, it's personal. That's personal opinion. So multiplayer, I would give it a 3 out of 3. It is fun. You can absolutely have fun with it. It is innovative. It did a lot of things differently in this series, whether they're good or bad. They did take the chance. So, which also kind of makes me think that even if it was a $70 quote unquote cash grab, they did a lot of work and a lot of other ideas. Now, part of this could just be to slow everyone down on progression, as every lobby is already level 55. There's no prestige system. Um, and it was very quickly. Like I took a day off of work and I got it in one day. And if I'm boosting a 1 KD, just do the math on how easy that was. Do I think you should buy the game on multiplayer? I think the only reason you're buying Call of Duty multiplayer, or the only reason you're buying Call of Duty is for the multiplayer. So I would give it a 3 out of 3 in that category. Zombies. Okay, so zombies is different in this in the way that it's based off of the DMZ model, and DMZ on itself in my head sounded like a zombies thing. I don't want to say I told you so, but I just always felt like this was something that was going to happen. Like you could just see the wheels turning in the background. Like it's a great layout. Now they have kind of done some open-ended maps in the day, but they've never done anything quite like this. So I think this is innovative right off the top. As far as fun, I think it's pretty fun. I think exfilling is really fun. I think going against these huge bosses are pretty fun, and getting into fights with the other people while the map is going on can be extremely fun. I like that you can queue up with friends or randos and they can save you. The pack-a-punch doesn't necessarily seem like there's no um, hidden mechanism to turn it on, but it is kind of it's different, right? It's extremely different. It's not wave based per se. It's more of an open-ended field. I personally like it. I think it's really fun. I think it's pretty innovative on the way they handled it, and I think it is replayable. Some of the big criticisms are the deep, long 40, 50 hour steps it takes to complete an Easter egg. And although there are Easter eggs and there are challenges specific to this mode, if you complete, I believe it's like 52 of them, something like that. All the contracts, you get the special zombie skin, which is actually really cool. So there is stories in this. There's 3 acts. I forget how many are in each. I'll be honest. I believe it's like 6 in the first one, and I don't know. I forget all the rest of them. But they are in here, and you do get unlocks for it. So I think honestly, if we're going to talk about modes, I think this is the best mode of the 3. I think they handle this one really well. It's kind of buggy, like everything. It's kind of like it was made by Bethesda. There's a lot of cheap spots to still get into, to be unkillable against the zombies. There was the duplicating um uh sentry gun glitch when I first started, which was really fun to see. Just 90,000 sentry guns against the boss just melted everything. So that was really fun to see. Kind of reminded me of like Dead Island or something. But I think this one has the most replayability. I think this one actually has the most fun per dollar if you wanted to go that way. And I think if you're going to buy a Call of Duty, I think it's definitely for zombies or it's for multiplayer. But I think I don't know, the zombie community is real tight on things, so I hate to speak in a broad sense, but in my opinion, as a hardcore multiplayer Warzone, a common pleb for zombies, I don't think it's that bad. But if you think anything differently, please leave me a comment down below. Downvote it if you feel that strong about it, or upvote it, either way. I just want to get your opinions on it. These were mine. I think the campaign was done okay. I think they lacked execution on a lot of the things. I think the multiplayer took some creative steps and did a lot of great things. It's not my favorite overall, but I don't think you get to front them on the shortcomings of it. Zombies, I think, did very well. Yeah, if you look at the game overall, it looks like a copy and paste from Modern Warfare 2. I get that because they used the DMZ mode for zombies. They used a lot of the Verdansk assets for their campaign. And they basically copied and pasted every Modern Warfare 2 map from the OG Modern Warfare 2 map. But they did add some other things. Like you can go back and tell that they made a lot of the places more accessible for mobility and climbing over them that you couldn't do in Modern Warfare 2. So overall, I think if you were going to buy the game, I think it's okay. I think you'll get your money out of your $60, $70 that you spend, assuming you don't buy any bundles. Do I think you're going to have the most fun that you ever had in any Call of Duty ever? Not if you're above the age of 23, dude. It's just not happening. However, don't let this discredit you or discourage you from buying it. I think you should still try it or at least rent it if you have GameFly or something on there. And that's about it. See ya.